powerful way to support theoretical and statistical arguments and give them more, but just more life. I have a number of caveats to make about a comparison between Italy and the United States. First of all, anytime you talk about the U.S., we're masking the fact that there are so many regional differences. One of the things that in fact makes Italy a good country to study for my purposes is that Italy also has very, very substantial regional differences. So we have to back away from talking about the U.S. as a whole and realize that childhood in Florida may be very different from childhood in Wisconsin or Minnesota. It's also true that there are pockets of excellence. One of my colleagues in Italy calls them islands of paradise. She says, well, you're looking at an island of paradise in Umbria. So we have to understand that they may not be representative. Another caveat or special issue is the culture of the family in Italy. It plays a very strong role, a very complex role, and I'm still trying to figure out exactly how all of that plays out in the work that I've been doing. The field work that I've been doing examines one specific multi-generational and extended family. And I'm trying to challenge the myth that government handouts undermine family autonomy. I'm trying to reframe handouts as social and economic rights that enable family and community to overcome adversity and, here again, maximize resiliency through mutual support. I'm looking at how government supports create environments in which families and communities can flourish and the role of social solidarity. Here's my little bow to communism. I'm not advocating communism, I'm advocating solidarity in the sense of recognizing there, but for the grace of God go I, that this tragedy could happen to me. We want a society in which it doesn't destroy life. I don't know if you can see this picture, but this is the community I'm studying. This is a view from La Cugnano, which is a small community that's become enveloped. It used to be a little village, really, in the middle of nowhere, but it's become enveloped by development that's stretching out from the city of Perugia. This valley once was all farms. The first time I looked out into this valley, it was all farms. Now it's factories, apartments, and so on. So there's been a lot of cultural and social shift. This, I'm sure you cannot read, but I'll tell you what it is. This is a family tree. This is the family tree of the family. They're all residents of the same house. I call it the Via Genova house. At the top, I'm doing it from the older generations down, is the paternal grandmother. And unfortunately, I just heard that she died a month or so ago. But anyway, I know, because of the way Italian families work, that there will be new resources coming in either laterally or from below to make these multi-generational arrangements continue. Then the family is really organized around two sisters. The two sisters are Nadia and Tiziana, and their parents built them a house before they were married, way back in the 70s. They built them a house that had 4 floors. And the plan was that this house would give economic independence to the 2 daughters after they married, because they'd be able to live in the house. And the ground floor of the house would be a workshop where they could have a business, which they did, making bocce boxes for Perugina candy. And the parents could live on one of the floors so that they would also be available to help the children. So this is the house. And this house really is a symbol of multi-generational interdependence. I'm not sure it would be a comfortable situation for many American families, but it certainly was very helpful for this family. The parents who built this house, the elder Crociones, unfortunately lived only a few years after they built it. But when they died, into that ground floor, that first one with balconies, came the paternal grandparents, the son-in-law's parents moved in. And so they provided that role of the grandparent. This is Tiziana and Nadia in the window of their second floor apartment. So this extended family I've really built around these 2 sisters. This is the center of La Cunana, the church. Interestingly, the church is also where the family members and community members created their own after-school programs. That was the locus of a lot of the activity in the town. This is Cousin Vanya's house. Cousin Vanya's house is like 3 minutes walk from the other house that I showed you. Here's another house that's 3 minutes walk, and it has neighbors and relatives in it. So you can see that what I've set up here is a study of a family in a particular community that is very much defined by and takes its identity from interdependency. One of the myths of the American focus on independence is that such families don't exist in the United States. Ridiculous. Of course they do. We all know them. Most of us have been them, had dependent children and individuals who were going through crisis in our family, and returning to the family, have moved to be close to family, have come to the aid of family members. So that idea that this is quaint. The buildings are made of stone, and you know, it looks lovely. It's Italy, but it's also many communities in the United States, particularly communities in which there's a great deal of stress and insufficient resources, and people really need to have each other to depend on. Well, one of the arguments I'm making sort of as a foundation, and I don't really have to make it to you, I have to make it to the Italians, because one of the things that happens when I go to Italy is they will say, oh, you must be coming here because you have so much to teach us. And I say, well, actually, no. Child well-being in the United States is way behind other developed nations. I look particularly at the UNICEF Innocenti Research Center, which is also located in Florence, where I was able to study. They've done report cards on poor children in rich countries. And they've looked at child poverty, families earning, which they define, unlike our definition of poverty, which is really kind of unconnected to any reality, families earning less than 1/2 the national median income. And they look at the 24 OECD nations, Organization for Economic and okay, I've lost what it means. I just know it's OECD. Examples: in Denmark, the child poverty rate is 2.4%. In Italy, the child poverty rate is 16.6%, and of course the Italians are very, very embarrassed by this figure. In the United States, 21.9%. Only Mexico was higher. This is part of the answer to the question, well, aren't we already doing everything we need to do in order to make children thrive? Why these differences? One of the answers that I've often heard is, well, you know, the United States is a big, complicated country. You can't compare it to Finland or Switzerland or Sweden or something like that. Well, in fact, we can. We can look behind these figures. We have to start with the market poverty rate. What is the market poverty rate? The market poverty rate is the rate of poverty, here we're talking particularly about child poverty, that would exist if we let the market do its thing and didn't interfere at all. That's the market child poverty rate. Well, in the United States, we start with a market child poverty rate of 26.6%. And through public spending, we reduce that to that 21.9% figure. France starts with a market poverty rate just a little bit above ours, 27.7%, and reduces it to 7.5% through public spending. So it's just simply not true that it's because we have a lot of poor people in the United States that we cannot deal with child poverty. Italy, which is very embarrassed about its standing at 16 point something, spends twice as much of its gross domestic product on child and family programs as the United States. So they may not be doing as well as they would like, but they're certainly doing better than we are in measuring the investment in children given your gross domestic product. Money isn't everything. There are also additional measures of well-being. The most recent, the 2007 Innocenti report card measures 6 dimensions of child well-being in 22 OECD countries. They look at material well-being, health and safety, education, family and peer relationships, behaviors and risks, and subjective well-being, which means they ask the children how they